When I asked her how she felt about God, she told me she hated him. And when I asked her if she wanted to make peace before she died, she said, nah, if they don't let me in the pearly gates, I'll just look for the back door and sneak in. Welcome back to the Past Life Archives. I'm Kylie King, a hypnotherapist and past life regressionist. These stories are real stories from my work with clients, shared with permission, and names and identifying details have been changed for privacies. And buckle up because this episode will be a doozy. So, in this session, the client found herself as a young woman named Hazel. She lived in a large household and worked as a scullery maid. Cleaning, scrubbing, carrying water, cooking, washing, the kind of life where your body works harder than your voice. And from the very beginning, her energy was different. And this was actually the first past life session I ever did. And I have to say, it was really a baptism by fire. Like, she was not soft, she was not spiritual, she was not grateful, which is understandable. She was sharp, blunt, tired. And I feel that. Probably not as much as a scullery maid, but I felt it. And Hazel, when I started asking her questions, because this was my first session, it was supposed to go how I'd studied it, right? It's supposed to proceed how it needs to. She didn't want to journey. She didn't want to go back and reflect on her life. She didn't want to analyze anything. And at one point, she literally told me to F off, like go away. Not in a dramatic way, but in a very calm, very matter of fact way. Like, you can get going, you can F off. And I have to say, out of all the sessions I've subsequently done now, almost over 200, she is the only life that has ever sworn at me in such a fashion. So thank you, Hazel. You have been one to really log into the memory bank. But she was very mad at the fact, and I get it. She's a busy lady. She had a lot of work to do, and she'd worked her whole life. And she was straight up, I've worked my whole life. I'm not here to perform for you. And as I said, it was iconic. I still remember her. All these many moons later and all the sessions I've done, I still have a beautiful soft spot for Hazel because, yeah, she brought me into the world of past life regression. And I have to say, I've still kept going. And that story didn't scare me off. It just wanted me to learn more about people's lives and more about their stories. So thank you, Hazel. So, in regards to her belief system, as I mentioned at the start, she said she hated God, and it wasn't because of religion, but because she felt like her life had been unfair. She had hard work, no choice, no power. There was no softness, no easiness, there was nothing. From the start of when she was born and through her childhood, as she showed me little bits and pieces of her journey, it was just duty, it was just survival, and it was just getting it done and getting what needed to be done to survive. And every part that she did show me was very much like that. She was hard work, it was rough, and she kept going and she survived. And like with any past life session, we go through different scenes to really build up a story about the life that we're looking at and that we're viewing. And to learn about them, to learn why they've come forward today. Because out of all the past lives, why did that past life come forward today? And then we go to the last day in that life. And it's not to be weird and figure out like how you died. It's to have that moment when your soul is no longer in your physical vessel. And we can ask a whole bunch of different questions to get answers. So we generally go to the death scene, and sometimes we don't even know how that life died. It's not necessary. It's not something we need to know. But in Hazel's deathbed moment, as we'll call it, when she was dying, I asked her a question. Do you want to make peace before you go? And she said, no. And I was like, aren't you concerned about like not getting into heaven if you don't make peace? And she says, no. If they don't let me in the pearly gates, I'll just look for the back door and sneak in. And she had a bit of a chuckle, which then I had a bit of a chuckle because I was like, you go, Hazel. She didn't have guilt. She didn't have repentance. She wasn't seeking forgiveness. She'll figure it out herself, like her whole life had been. She'll deal with what's put forward. She'll get on and get the job done. But I did like at her last reflection, there was a little bit of cheekiness, like, go Hazel. So, as I mentioned, this is one of the favorite sessions that I've done. It was the first, and it wasn't because it was the most profound. It wasn't because it had the big shifts and the big game changes and can you get this message out to the collective or can you tell this? But it was honest. It was Hazel not showing up as anything else. And what I loved about it was that the client that I had, you could tell it was someone completely different. Hazel had evolved, I guess, into this life and had a very different demeanor than what she was exhibiting in her past life. So she didn't try and spiritualize her suffering. She didn't romanticize her life. She didn't turn her pain into a lesson. She just told the truth. She was straight up. She was tired, she was angry, and she was done with pretending. And I love that that came through in the session because she was just herself. No sugarcoating it. Hazel showed up as Hazel. And that, with that honesty, with that upfrontness, like there is nothing that that client, when listening back onto the recording, can appreciate and have. Why the lessons that have come from that. So, the important thing to remember, and I think what the real message of why I wanted to share this episode with was not every soul wants to be enlightened. Not every past life is poetic. Some souls are just fed up, especially with everything that's happening in the world right now. They're a bit tired and they're fed up. And that's a kind of wisdom too, because it really gives you that wisdom of boundaries, agency, not performing for spirituality for approval. Like things are happening and I'm feeling this right now. I'm not going to pretend to wrap it up in bows and rainbows and unicorns and pretend that everything's okay. This is how I feel right now, and that's okay. Hazel didn't want forgiveness. She didn't want healing. She didn't want peace. She wanted autonomy. And maybe some souls don't need to be rescued. Maybe they just need to be respected. And I know that after that session, I had a lot of respect for Hazel, even if she did swear at me. Thank you for listening. If this story made you laugh, gain some respect for Hazel, or think in a different way, please like, comment, or hit subscribe to the Past Life Archives. New stories are released every week. And yes, some of the stories I share are a lot more polite than this one. If you want to explore your own past life regression and see what's happening with you, all of my links are down below. Thank you.